Hey, it's Toyin from the Academic Society, and I give grad school advice. I also talk about life and style after grad school. So today I'm just going to be talking about failure in grad school, and I haven't really talked about that before on this page. So I'm about to get started to tell you all about failure in grad school and how to overcome it. But first, let me share this video to my Facebook group. And so if you want to join my Facebook group if you're a grad student. Just type in the Academic Society for Grad Students in Facebook and you'll find the group, or just post something in the comments and I'll share the link with you. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So today I'm talking about failure in grad school. And so this is something I haven't really talked about before on this page or on my channel, but it's a very big part of the grad school experience. And it's something that we all go through in grad school, and it's something that we all have to overcome. I remember when I was in grad school, and whenever I would have a hard time or experience failure in grad school, I would call my mom because she went through grad school and got her PhD in business and tell her all about it. And she was like, oh yeah, well, this is just the PhD experience. It's the grad school experience. It's going to be difficult, but what they're really testing is, can you make it through? Can you stay through the whole process and succeed in the end despite all of the failures that may come along the way? So getting a PhD is all about just withstanding the pressure and not giving up. So even though failure happens, we just have to figure out how to overcome it and keep moving forward, because that's what the grad school process is all about. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is fear of failure. Then I'm going to talk about what failure looks like in grad school, because it can come in many, many different forms, and then how to overcome the fear of failure in grad school. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so let's talk about the fear of failure. And so before we do that, my challenge to you is to change your mindset about failure. So whenever you experience failure in grad school, try to think to yourself, okay, this is just the grad school process. This happens to everyone. It's not just me who's failing. As long as I keep moving forward and keep trying and not giving up, then I'm succeeding as a grad student, despite whatever failure or mishap that happened. Okay, so the fear of failure can cause you to be reluctant to try new things or to reattempt something that you failed at. That's why it's good to keep that mindset that this happens. This happens in grad school, and so you shouldn't let failure hold you back from trying new things or reattempting the thing you failed at. The fear of failure can cause you to self-sabotage. So this happens a lot, especially through like procrastination. You like fail at something, or you're afraid to fail at something. So you kind of just are paralyzed and you don't follow through and you don't get started, and you could become very anxious. The fear of failure can cause low self-esteem or low self-confidence. And you can find yourself saying things like, oh, I'm not good enough to apply for this fellowship, or I'm not good enough to submit my paper to this journal. Do not do this. You can do it. You are good enough. You can definitely make it. So don't let the fear of failure hold you back. Also, the fear of failure can breed perfectionism, right? Or perfectionism. So you can making sure you do your best is always great, but sometimes the fear of failure makes you want to be perfect all of the time, and that's not really sustainable. Oh, hi, Melissa. Melissa's joining me. So trying to be perfect is not really sustainable, and it can kind of hold you back as well. It can also keep you from trying something new, just in case you fail, because you just want to be perfect all the time. And so the main thing I want you to remember is that it is completely normal to fail in grad school. I failed in grad school. Everyone who went through grad school failed in grad school. So if you are failing at something in grad school, that means you're doing grad school right. That's just how it goes. So let's talk about what failure looks like in grad school. Hey girl, so if you have any questions or anything, feel free to leave them in the comments and chat with me while I'm live. Or if you're watching the replay, let me know that you're watching the replay and leave whatever questions and I'll come back to them later. Okay, so let's talk about what failure looks like in grad school. It can be very obvious or it can be subtle. So, if you're a grad student, you've probably experienced one of these things that I'm going to mention of what failure looks like in grad school. But what's really important is that we need to train ourselves to look at our failures and learn from them and then move forward from them. Okay, so here's what failure could look like in grad school. It could look like running out of time to finish an assignment. It could look like failing an exam or a project or some type of paper. It can also look like disappointing your advisor, and I want to say disappointing because you can't really disappoint them. It's because it's their job to teach you how to sustain research on your own and how to go through that process. So it may feel like a disappointment to you when you don't do something or you're not able to understand something your advisor tells you, but it's all part of that advisor-advisee relationship. So failure could look like needing to get a new advisor or a new committee member. Maybe things just don't work out. That happens to a lot of graduate students where the advisor they chose the first time is not the advisor they're going to have when they finish their PhD or their master's or whatever grad school degree. And that's okay. Getting poor teaching evaluations. So when you're teaching, and especially if you've never had any education experience like me, teaching can be very difficult and you're just learning, and getting a poor teaching evaluation can look like failure. But the nice thing about starting off bad is that you can improve. And so when you're applying for jobs, you can show that improvement. Oh, look at all the things I've learned since I've been teaching from my experience. Also, it could look like failure could look like having a grant proposal or journal submission rejected. It's happened, all of these things, or many of these things have happened to all grad students. So there are many other ways that you can feel like a failure in grad school, but the main thing is to not let them become roadblocks to stop you from achieving your goals and finally graduating. So remember, once you get your degree, no one will even remember or care about those little failures that you may have had along the way. Oh, Melissa says, real talk. I'm so glad that you're agreeing and that this is resonating with you. Okay, so last point that I want to make or my bit of advice is how to overcome the fear of failure in grad school, right? So we all know failure is going to happen. So how do you not be afraid of doing it? Okay, so here's some tips. Number one, analyze all potential outcomes. So I'm a planner. I like to figure out what's going to happen if I do this or what's going to happen if I do that. So many people experience the fear of failure because they fear the unknown. So one way to remove that fear of the unknown is to consider potential outcomes of whatever decisions you're trying to make or what you're doing. So maybe you have an assignment that you just don't have time to finish. What are the potential outcomes? You could not turn it in because it's not done. You could turn in what you have. You can email your professor and let them know that you need time or tell them where you're struggling. There's so many different outcomes that you can evaluate and figure out what's the best course of action for you. One thing that I like to do to overcome the fear of failure is to think more positively. Positive thinking can help you so much. It can help you build your self-confidence, and it can also reduce self-sabotage, because that's a big thing that can happen. So another thing that you can do to overcome your fear of failure is to look at, so this is kind of negative, look at the worst case scenario. So in some cases, the worst case scenario can genuinely be disastrous, but it may be perfectly rational to fear failure in those disastrous cases. But in most cases, the worst case scenario is not going to be completely life-changing. And being able to see that can help you move forward. Okay, and then finally, having a backup plan. You know, I'm a planner. So if you're afraid of failing at something, have a plan B. So what happens if I fail at this thing? What's my plan B? What is going to happen next? So having a plan B in place can help you feel more confident about moving forward. So I hope that this little discussion and my little bit of advice was helpful. So let me know in the comments how you failed in grad school and overcome that failure. And if you want to chat with other grad students, definitely join the Facebook group. It's called the Academic Society for Grad Students. If you can't find it, just comment here and I'll give you the link. All right, everybody, have a wonderful day. Bye.